Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We're going to be right back with today's guest, but as always, we're going to give a shout out to our sponsors. Now, come on, don't hit that fast forward button. These are all companies that I used as an athletic director. They're all great companies. I really recommend that you check them out. So take 3 minutes, listen to our shout outs, then listen to our interview, and then go and visit these sponsors. I'm telling you, you're going to be glad you did. Here we go. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Snap Raise. Have you ever spent weeks with a fundraiser and been disappointed in the results? Well, those days are gone. Go to snapraise.com. It's hands down the best online fundraiser out there. We used it at our school because it works. Coaches loved it, parents loved it. Go to snapraise.com. You can check out their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, you just found it. Go to snapraise.com. We also want to thank our friends at Gipper. Your kids are on social media, and if they're not seeing content to celebrate their accomplishments, you're missing out on a great opportunity. Go to Gipper.com. Their team is used and trusted by over 20,000 high school and college programs. And whether it's a social media post celebrating a big win or an entire newsletter that's going to share all the great things your program's doing, the Gipper team will have you creating world-class content in seconds. It's so easy, even I can do it. Go to Gipper.com to get started. We also want to thank Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards for all the teams, for all the different sports, or show off your school's Hall of Fame, go to Vital Signs Wall of Fame and take a look at their interactive touchscreen video consoles. I'm telling you, it's a product you got to see to believe. Whether it's a wall mount or a floor console, go to Vital Signs Wall of Fame and check out their products today. We want to thank Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. My assistant athletic director, along with thousands of others, got his master's through Ohio University, and it was a great experience. It's very affordable, just 20 months, totally online. And while you finish your master's, you're also completing 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge. Go to ohio.edu/info/MAA for more information. We also want to say thanks to Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years. When I became an athletic director, I made sure our school was a Huddle school. And our coaches, our student athletes, our parents just loved all the aspects of the Huddle platform. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users, and turn your school into a Huddle school. We also want to say thanks to Home Campus. Home Campus is a platform you're going to use every day, whether it's scheduling, rosters, results, or their athletic eligibility and clearance platform. You just got to check it out. Go to homecampus.com for more information. That's it, homecampus.com. We'd like to thank Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables, and video boards. Go to their website, sidelineinteractive.com, and schedule a live web demo to see their products in action. Probably the best purchase I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com for more information. And we want to thank Hometown Ticketing. Hometown's the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. And whether it's tickets for your athletic events or school plays, concerts, dances, even graduation, the Hometown team is going to help you make the best online ticketing solutions. It's digital ticketing that offers more. We also want to say thanks to Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Now, athletic directors already get feedback, but a lot of times it's from a very small group that just wants to gripe. Athletic Surveys is going to connect you to that group so you can hear their concerns and hopefully address them. But they're also going to connect you with the 98% that supports your program. And having that type of data in your hands is incredibly valuable, especially when you're visiting with that frustrated parent, or maybe your principal, or even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. Check them out today, and don't forget to mention the podcast. Hey, welcome back, everybody, to another segment of the Educational AD Podcast. We're going to Texas today, and we're going to be visiting with Saphire Cervantes. She's got an incredible background in athletics. She's a longtime award-winning sports journalist. She's also a teacher and a coach, and she's currently on assignment. The girls' cheer team is competing at the states in Texas, so we appreciate her spending some time with us. Her title is also Director of Recruitment and Media Relations for Woodville High School. I want to hear about that and more. Saphire Cervantes, welcome to the Educational AD Podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. I'm really excited to kind of show more people what I do, and hopefully more high schools can kind of get some women on board.
No, absolutely. I guarantee you that, every football coach, basketball coach, you name it, cheer coach in Florida and other states, they're listening and they're going, boy, I wish I had a director of recruitment and media relations. So let's go and jump right into it. We always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know the guests. So give us a little bit of background, where you were born, where you grew up. Maybe take us up through your own high school and college days, and then we'll take a break. But what's the Saphire Cervantes origin story?
Well, I'm proud because I'm from Dallas, specifically Oak Cliff. So if you know anything about Texas football, South Oak Cliff is really big right now. But I'm from like downtown Dallas. I went to college at Oklahoma State University, where I thought I was going to be a doctor at first. So thought I was going to be a doctor, and then I had a professor kind of come and speak to me about doing broadcast because she thought I was really good at public speaking. And I've never been kind of a news girl. Like I never really liked it growing up, like the whole politics thing and everything like that. And so at first I turned her down, but she was like, "Do you know Oklahoma State has a sports media program?" Because I've always been really into sports. I loved, all sports at Oklahoma State. I'm a big, cowpoke, but I grew up in competitive cheer and I tried every single sport growing up. So um, she knew that would kind of get me on board a little bit. And so I switched from pre-med or pre-health. It's the pre-health track at Oklahoma State University. And I switched to sports media. So that was a really interesting conversation with my parents, and telling them, hey, just kidding. I'm not going to medical school. I'm going to be on TV instead. And so from there, I actually did a ton with Oklahoma State media, and I got really involved with like football and basketball specifically because those are two really big sports there, and wrestling, of course, and got to be a part of the Wrestling Hall of Fame induction ceremony at Oklahoma State University. So that was really exciting. And so that really made me just fall in love with the whole, sports business. Honestly, I got to know it a lot more through Oklahoma State. And so after that, I went to Colorado for my first broadcast job, actually. So I moved to Colorado during COVID because I graduated college in 2020. So during COVID, I moved to Colorado and I basically just started my career in broadcast. And from there, I knew I wanted to work in sports and I looked for any sports job basically available that would advance my career. And I saw there was an opening in Beaumont, Texas, and I know how big Texas high school football is because, I went to school in downtown Dallas. I went to school at Woodrow Wilson High School. They call it the home of the Heisman. In case, anyone was wondering, look it up. It's one of the oldest schools in Dallas ISD. We're pretty historic, but I knew that football was really big. I've always been a football girl. And so I made the move back to Texas to work in Beaumont, and I got really just involved with the community and I got to know all the coaches here through every sport, and decided that broadcast really wasn't the route I wanted to go anymore. I got to experience a lot with broadcasts, and specifically got to experience, the Astros World Series run twice and got to be in the locker room through that. And so once I left, I didn't really know what I wanted to do because that was about when I'd say I was 24 at the time. I was 24 at the time. And so I was like, I don't know what's next for me, but I know I still love sports and I still love working in sports. And so I went back to school, of course, like everyone does when they don't know what they're going to do. And went to do the strength and conditioning coaching route. And I got an internship at the university, Lamar University, in Beaumont. And so from there, my head coach, Ty Robinson now, he called and was like, "Hey, what are you doing? Like, what are you up to? I haven't seen you around. Are you still in the area?" And I was like, "Actually, I am. I'm coaching. I'm getting a master's degree. Here's what I'm doing." He's like, "Do you want to try and get involved on the administration part of sports?" And I was like, "Of course, like that, I'd love to." And he basically, with the help of another female who now works out of college but used to work at a high school, um, created this position for me at Woodville so that I can kind of get my feet wet and get some experience and learn more about it. And I really have, honestly, I've learned a ton.
Well, I want to hear about all of that and more, but let's go all the way back to when you were growing up. You mentioned you grew up in Dallas, and you were involved with all sports. What was it like in your neighborhood? Did you have the big backyard where everybody was playing? Was there a hoop in your driveway? What was that like at the beginning of your own sports journey?
Oh, at the beginning, well, my mom, so in Dallas, there's so much to do. Like, there's really a lot to do. You're in the city, but for adults, not for kids. It's not very kid friendly, it's very business friendly. And so my mom basically found any camp that we could go to as kids, and most of them were sport oriented camps. So I have three brothers, and all three hate sports. All three of them are not sports people, they're more artsy. So my parents were like, okay, like, okay, Sapphire is probably our sport one. And so really, I'm the one my dad would sit down and watch football with. I'm the one that, would sit and go through plays and do all that with my parents. And my mom loved basketball. So we did all the camps. And my mom, I tried softball. I'll be honest, was not very good at softball. My mom tried, to practice with me, and we went throwing the ball one day and I hit her in the face and I never touched a softball again after that. I did play soccer for a little bit, but just because my school needed an extra soccer player, they literally just they saw me in the stands and they knew I was a student and they needed a extra kid, and so basically put a jersey on me in the car, and I had no choice but to play. But it was still fun. I'm glad they forced me to do it in the long run. But I did soccer. I am only 5'4", so I was never a tall kid. So basketball was not my sport. I did Girl Scouts growing up, and so at the Dallas Mavericks would have a Girl Scout night. And so I have tried to shoot a free throw multiple times because those nights they kind of let the girls get on the court and they teach you a little bit, and that was really embarrassing. So thankfully my mom knows basketball though. So I'm very well versed in all the sports, just playing them maybe not so much, but I fell in love with competitive cheer at a really young age, and so my parents just kind of invested in that and kind of encouraged me to stay in that growing up, and so I did. And um I I don't know, I think being around the sport was enough for me, not playing a sport with the ball, but I loved doing cheer, and so much so like I just wanted to get better. And my dad in high school would wake me up at 4 a.m. to work out before school with him. So um, I definitely was the kid that was just invested in sports for sure.
Right. Well, and again, this. I was very fortunate as an athletic director. We had some great cheer coaches, both for spirit cheer and for competition cheer. And that is there's no question in my mind that that is a sport, and
Oh,
whether
for
it's
sure.
competitive or performance, whatever word you want to use, those girls and guys that do it, definitely athletes. Let's go and take our first break. For listeners, our guest today is Saphire Cervantes. She's a longtime award winning sports journalist. She's now a teacher and a coach at Woodville High School, also director of recruitment and media relations. We're going to hear about all of that and more. So please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Snap Raise for their support of the podcast. If you've ever spent weeks and weeks with a fundraiser and come away a little disappointed, those days are gone. go to snapraise.com. It's hands down the best online fundraiser out there. We used it at our school with our teams with great success. The coaches loved it, the parents loved it because it works. Go to snapraise.com. You can check out their other great platforms. But if you're looking for a fundraiser, you just found it. It's snapraise.com. We also want to say thanks to Gipper. Your students are on social media, and if they're not seeing content that celebrates their accomplishments and promotes your program, you're missing out on a great opportunity. Go to Gipper.com. It's used and trusted by over 20,000 high school and college programs. And whether it's a social media post celebrating a big win or an entire newsletter that's sharing all the great things your program is doing, the team at Gipper will have you creating world-class content in seconds. It's so easy, even I can do it. Go to Gipper.com. Don't forget to mention the podcast. That's Gipper.com. You're going to be very glad you did.
All right, Jake, fun fact, we actually use Skipper at my school because I'm a teacher, I'm a coach. I mean, I do a little bit of everything. So it kind of makes things faster and easier for me anytime that I need to get something done or put information out there.
Well, guys, I really appreciate you sharing that. Now, you heard me say, and I say this every week, Gipper's so easy, even I can do it. An old guy like me that's not tech savvy, for somebody that was a professional journalist, as you were first learning the Gipper platform, how hard was it for you to start using it?
Oh, no, it wasn't hard at all. It's probably one of the easiest platforms I've ever had to use because I'm used to actually creating stuff like that. So it's already created for you, really, and you just enter in the information and your branding information. So it's really convenient.
Oh no, the templates are just fantastic, and I'm going to guess in your role of director of recruitment and media relations, you probably have occasion to use Gipper once or twice. So,
Or
thanks for sharing that. Once again, for listeners, our guest today is Saphire Cervantes. She is the director of recruitment and media relations, also a teacher and a coach at Woodville High School in Texas. Um, Sapphire, I want to go back a little bit more into your experience as a competitive athlete, both in high school and college, and then talk about your transition into what became your career initially, broadcast journalism. What was that like as a competitive performer? Maybe what are some highs for you that you can share with our listeners?
Oh my gosh. I'm actually sitting outside of a our cheerleading practice right now. They're going to state tomorrow, but I walked in and I was like, "Man, I just wish I could throw a stun up or I wish I could start tumbling. Like I would give anything to start just screaming right now because it was so much fun as a kid and as a teenager to be a part of that and be a part of a team and feeling like you're doing something special. And just kind of pushing your body to the limits. And I feel like that has kind of shaped who I am now as a person because I thrive in kind of like the competitive environment. I thrive when there's pressure on me, and that's when I feel I do my best work. And so I think that's probably why I enjoyed broadcast TV for a good amount of time was because that's the environment. You have to thrive under pressure and you have to, be able to work under deadline and you have to find the cool stories and be interesting and creative and everything like that. And so I think the competitive nature of sports growing up just kind of made me into kind of like a creative person. Like, how can I be different from this person? Like, I want you to know that you should put me on your team because, and just being able to push myself, past what I'm actually capable of doing. And that's basically what sports teaches you. Like it teaches you your limits, it teaches you to push past your limits. And so I think as a coach, it's exciting to show kids exactly what they're capable of and show them, what their future can be if they implement what they learn in their sport and life.
Oh, I love it. Those lifelong lessons we talk about athletics leading to. Going back to your own days as a competitor, now obviously there's technique, the tumbling, the stunts, all of that stuff. When you're in high school, how much emphasis was there on, flexibility, speed, power, weightlifting. Were you doing any of those types of activities as a high school athlete?
Oh, for sure. I mean, you had to do it every single day. And I mean, I was terrified of my coach and I wanted to impress her as much as I could. So I definitely was, I tried to suck up to her as much as I could because I wanted her to like me. I wanted to be in the front row. I wanted to be captain one day. I wanted to do all of that. So I made sure that I did what I needed to do outside of practice, um, to basically show off for her. Like I said before, my dad used to wake me up at 4 a.m. to go to the gym, and that's where I started my love with weightlifting because I've been weightlifting since I was 15 years old. And I definitely credit that to, my love for it now. And just, I never really got too injured when I was an athlete in high school. And I think that's because my dad took me to the gym and made me lift weights and made me do all of that because I did have girls falling on top of me because, you know, I was the base. So I was the one that lifted the girls. And I did fly in the air a couple times, but I did most of the lifting. And so when the girls fell on top of me, my body could handle, that impact and could handle that basically just beating itself up because my dad made me put muscle on my bones,
Mhm.
and fed me the protein and just made me into an athlete so that I could continue to do my sport and do my sport well. And I'd say it paid off because I'm sitting here now and I really don't have any injuries that act up as an adult, and I can still work out and do all that. And yeah, I'm very grateful. My dad kind of forced me into the weight room.
And that's such a great thing about a good high school strength and conditioning program is that there's not that many what do you want to say, late 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s men and women that are still playing competitive football or full court basketball or full blown stunt tumbling gymnastics cheer, but you can still go to the weight room, go to the gym, and continue to work out for the rest of your life. I know I do it at 67, and it allows me to do the other things that I like to do and enjoy. Um, let's go and talk again. You did a great job of talking about how you got into, journalism, broadcasting, etc. Um, I'm guessing, that there was probably a tipping point, if you will, that okay, this looks cool and I'm going to try it and maybe am I really good at this? Do I belong? Was there a tipping point for you where you said, "Hey, this is where I need to be. This is where I want to be, and I'm going to be doing this for a while." Any experiences you can share on that?
In broadcast,
Yeah.
well, in broadcast, I would say the first time I was put in front of a camera and basically told to just talk, like, because you, as a student, I mean, you run student media, you are treated like a professional, but and you're expected to just know. And it was a newer program kind of at Oklahoma State. And there weren't many volunteers at the time, just putting in the extra time to do it as a reporter. And I remember going in not really knowing what to expect and honestly just not really knowing what to do because I took a couple of classes and I would hope that they told me what to do, but really until you get hands-on experience, you don't know what's going on. And so I remember them sending me on like my first story and I loved it. I thought it was like the adrenaline felt like I was about to perform or something, like I was about to compete. Like my heart was racing, and you don't have a script. You're just put in front of a camera, expected to talk to people. I remember I had to walk around tailgates one time at an Oklahoma State game and just like create a story out of these people in front of a live camera. Like everything was live. And that was phenomenal because I had to just in the moment I had to compete. I had to show that I was capable of basically doing the job that they told me to do. And after that, I was like, I need this rush. I need that rush every single day. And broadcast will give you an adrenaline rush every single day. That is still true.
Oh, that is so cool to hear. 100 years ago, when I was an undergrad, I did a little bit of that at the small college I was at. And you're absolutely right. I mean, if you're a sports, if you're a sports geek, a sports nerd, if you love sports, that is a great outlet. It takes me back all those many years. Um, our next segment, I'm going to have you take a deep dive into what you're doing now at Woodville High School in that media relations. But can you think of a moment, or not so much a moment, that your life as a sports journalist, and you have a number of years under your belt doing that. Can you think of things that you did as a professional that, not the technique, not the camera, not the voice, but I guess a technical aspect that, because of that experience that you had as on-air talent, that you can now share with your students within the program at Woodville? Anything come to mind?
Oh, just so not technique, not any of that. Gosh, that's a really good question. I always tell my students, especially that like want to work in broadcast journalism, and I tell them that the number one thing that they need is honestly to mostly it's your character traits. You got to be able to hustle. You have to be able to, want to finish the job, and you have to be able to network. And so really, first and foremost, you have to be kind of like a good person that people want to talk to. And if it's not, if you're not delivering it well, of course that's going to hurt you. If you can't speak well, yeah, that's going to hurt you. If you can't shoot the video correctly, of course that's going to be bad. But um, you have to be someone that people want to talk to and that people can relate to. And if you're not, then honestly, you won't be successful in that business, unfortunately.
Oh, well, again, and that's true just about across the board. If you're a good person, you already talked about having that work ethic, putting in the work, you're going to have some success. Very cool stuff. Let's go and take another quick break. Once again, our guest today is Saphire Cervantes, a longtime journalist, currently the director of recruiting and media relationships for Woodville High School in Texas. We're going to hear all about that and more. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We also want to say thanks to our good friends at Vital Signs Wall of Fame. If you're looking for a really cool way to display your school record boards for all the teams, for all the different events, or to show off your school's Hall of Fame, go to Vital Signs Wall of Fame and take a look at their interactive touch screen. That's right, touch screen video consoles. It's also a great way to share your school's unique history and brag a little bit about your proudest moments. The website is vitalsignswalloffame.com. Don't forget to mention the podcast, vitalsignswalloffame.com. We also want to thank Ohio University and their online masters in athletic administration. Now, I didn't get my master's from Ohio University, but my assistant athletic director did, along with thousands of others, and it was a great experience. It's very affordable, just 20 months, totally online. And while you're earning your master's degree, you're also completing 11 NIAAA leadership training courses at no extra charge. To get started, just go to ohio.edu/info/MAA, the Ohio University Online Masters in Athletic Administration. We also want to thank our friends at Huddle. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school. And our coaches, all of our coaches, just loved the tools that Huddle provided. Our student athletes loved the videos, and our parents loved the streaming, but there's so much more. Go to huddle.com, join the 8 million users, and find out how to turn your school into a Huddle school. That's huddle.com.
So Jake, we actually use Huddle too. This is actually really funny that they're sponsors of the podcast, but all of our guys, it's super convenient because I actually created a recruitment website for our school, and I put a direct link to their Huddle profile, so it makes it pretty easy for the college coaches to kind of look at their highlights and get all the information they need about our students.
Well, again, thank you so much for sharing. This will be a great transition into what we're going to talk about. Um, we talk about the kids sending out, or back in the old days, the kids would, take their videos and maybe, send them to college coaches. But now the Huddle platform allows college coaches to sign up and peruse those videos on their own. From your position as, director of recruitment, how big of a tool is that for your program?
Oh my gosh, it's huge because I mean we're a smaller school, so without, some aid and kind of getting our name out there and getting our players out there, no one probably would hear about us. We did go to state this year though, so shout out to, our football players, but it would be a little bit harder for our student athletes to get exposure, but it's really easy for me to just tell a college coach like, hey, you should really look at this kid, and yeah, they have a huddle, here's their profile, and then they could see everything that they need really about the kid right there.
Again, for our listeners, Saphire Cervantes, she's a longtime journalist, sports journalist. She's the director of recruitment and media relations for Woodville High School in Texas. Now, we all know Texas football is off the charts, even more so than what we have here in Florida. And I've actually had a couple of other, they're actually, women that do a similar job to you at high schools in Texas. And I'm not aware of one in Florida. So, for our listeners in Florida and in other states, what do you do in your position as director of recruitment and media relations?
So, as the director of recruitment and media relations, what I do is I help. It's all both boys and girls sports, so all of athletics. I just help kind of get their information together. So the students, I'll make sure that they have their athletic performance information, their academic performance information together, so that when we do eventually need it for colleges to look at them, that we have it all in one place. So things like prospect sheets and things like that I'll keep myself so that they're all in one spot and the coaches don't kind of have to worry about that. I also make sure anything with academics is taken care of. So those like eligibility dates, I have to, keep a track of that to make sure all of our kids are eligible and that their grades are good. So I typically give them a heads up. Hey, what are your grades looking like? Because in about a week we're going to check them, so make sure that you're passing. Talk to your teacher. So I try to help them out with that, and then any important dates like SAT and ACT, even though colleges really don't use that for admissions anymore, they could use it for scholarships, and so that's really big for students, especially nowadays, since things are still really expensive. So I try to advocate for them to take those tests just so they have a better opportunity at getting scholarships.
Now, again, we've been talking about football. In your time there at Woodville, what are some other examples of, you sounds like I'm job checking you, of you working with your student athletes to help promote them, for the student athletes that do want to go on to that next level? What are some of the other sports where, and I know you've had a ton, but what are some of the other sports where you've had some success?
Well, we have a great volleyball program. They actually, unfortunately, they're really young, and so they actually, sorry, my cheerleaders are coming out, but they actually got out of playoffs that first round. But we have some girls that it's really important to them to kind of go to college and perform, so they do club sports and things like that. And then we have great basketball coaches and a great basketball program. It's just starting up for us now though, since we went to state. And we'll have a great track season coming up that will be on our website that I told you that I made, and um, also golf. So I mean, we have a lot of programs that deserve exposure that before this year really didn't get it because I was not there. So I'm happy to be here, honestly, and it's my job to make sure that, every single sport gets the opportunity to be seen. by the community or across the street, even across the nation. So I try to post any updates online and make sure our social media presence is known so that our students have the best opportunity to, go and play at the next level if that's what they want to do.
That's a great point. I think for a lot of schools, it falls on the AD and in some cases the actual coach to manage their social media. Um, how I guess how active are you? How many posts are you making on a given day? I'm going to guess there's mid-game updates and of course results and hey, the soccer team's playing on Friday. How much of that, the posting, is a part of your job?
Oh, that's like yeah, that's an everyday thing. I try to do schedules, game day, I do highlight videos. I mean, it's constant. It's extremely constant and any information that needs to get out there, like I make sure to do it. Thankfully, I do have some help from some students that will definitely help me, and our cheerleaders are also a big help because they're really good at relaying information. So I try to utilize our students as much as I can, but yeah, it's an everyday thing. If there's a game, if it's game day, there's a post. If there's a big event coming up, there's a post couple days before, there's a post day of, there's a recap video. So I mean, the media aspect of my job is a pretty big task, I'll say.
Now you mentioned this was your first year at Woodville. I know I'm putting you on the spot again. What were some of the things that you did to introduce yourself to the coaches and the AD and let them know, hey, I'm here to help you. Was there any resistance? Did you have that cranky old coach that said, I don't want publicity and all this stuff? How did you I guess integrate yourself into the staff?
Um, well, our coach Rob, he gave me free reign really on like what I wanted to do because admits that he's not very well versed in kind of the social media world. And so he was like, I trust you. And we've known each other for a while because of my broadcast career. And so he just kind of trusted me to do what I see fit. And I'll kind of give him a heads up and I'll say, hey, this is what I'm going to do if you're okay with it. And usually he's just like, yeah, go ahead. Or he'll ask me to do something extra if he wants me to do something more than that. And so really it's been great. I mean, I've had district support, I've had coaching support, and so I really haven't had any problems. I had great support from all the coaches, great support from the students even. So it's really a lot of fun.
Oh, I would expect nothing else. I mean, I just can imagine if you were to show up at one of the schools where I'd been the athletic director, I'm just going, wow, wow, I wish we could have had this 5 years ago. You mentioned websites. We're going to do this at the end of the interview, but if one of our listeners wants to reach out, pick your brain a little bit more, or you talked about networking, so important for an
Oh
AD.
yeah.
What's the best way that our listeners can find out more about what you do at Woodville and also to connect with Saphire Cervantes?
They can always follow me on X at Coach Fire 98. That's what I am. I have a big presence on there, so I would definitely recommend that because you also get to see kind of examples of what I've done and what is going on at Woodville for sure. And then they can always email me. SapphireC 2020 at gmail.com is my personal email, or they can email me at my school email, sapphire.cervantes at woodvilleeagles.org too. I mean, I'm always happy to help other people out and especially females because I wouldn't have this job without someone helping me out. So I definitely feel like that's pretty important for me to do as well.
Oh, absolutely. And again, that X or Twitter for old people like me, that's Coach Fire 98. And we'll give out those emails at the end of the podcast. We're visiting today with Saphire Cervantes, the Director of Recruitment and Media Relations for Woodville High School in Texas, and a whole lot more. Let's take a break, but we're coming back. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to our good friends at Home Campus for their support of the podcast. Home Campus is one of those platforms that you're going to use every single day, whether it's scheduling, rosters, results. Their student athlete eligibility and clearance platform alone is worth the price for the worth the purchase price. Um, Go to homecampus.com. Find out all the great things that they can do for your program. That's homecampus.com. We also want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. You can schedule a live web demo to see their score tables and their score boards in action. Probably one of the best purchases I ever made was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Schedule that live web demo today. And we want to say thanks to Hometown Ticketing. Hometown is the leading digital ticketing provider for schools and colleges. And if you go to hometownticketing.com, their team is going to show you how to set up and sell tickets online, not just for athletic events, but things like school plays and concerts, school dances, even graduation. And here's the best part. Um, every school gets assigned a dedicated client success manager that's going to provide you hands-on support every step of the way. That's every step of the way. Go to hometownticketing.com. It's digital ticketing that offers more. hometownticketing.com. Welcome back, everybody, to the Educational AD Podcast. One more time, our guest is Saphire Cervantes, and she is the Director of Recruitment and Media Relations for Woodville High School in Texas. Sapphire, I've mentioned a couple of times that this is a position, while not currently in, let's say, a lot of Florida high schools or maybe even other high schools, it's certainly something that needs to be present for a ton of different reasons. Talk a little bit about your day, and how can somebody listening, how can they make this happen at their school?
Well, okay, so I actually do a lot for my school, and that's the only way that I could kind of have this position, if that makes sense. I coach, I do strength off season with all the coaches, so I coach middle school and high school girls. Then I also coach middle school basketball and middle school volleyball, and I teach 5 different classes. I teach graphic design, video game design, digital media. I'm the yearbook advisor, and I teach broadcast journalism. So I have to do all that, obviously, to have this position, but I'm so grateful for it. And I think that honestly, every school should have it, just because it's a lot. It's on the coaches to, have this responsibility for all these students, especially, once you get to bigger schools, it's even harder because there's even more numbers. And so this just helps ensure that, every kid gets the shot if they want a shot at, continuing their athletic career. And you just got to find, honestly, the people that are willing to do the extra work. I know that, like, coaching is very it's time demanding. It's a very demanding job, and teaching is a very demanding job, but it's also very rewarding. And so being able to do the little extra, you just got to find the people that are willing to do extra for, those kids.
No, and you're absolutely right. When I would talk to my coaches, and many of them were on-campus teachers too. It wasn't like that's all you do is coach. And I know in Texas that might be at least for football coaches, they get to do that. But there's just so many other things that we're asking, demanding that our coaches do. If we can take something off their plate, like that social media, like that being the liaison with colleges for recruiting, it allows them to do better at those jobs that we are demanding that they do. And you and I were talking before we recorded. For our listeners, you've got a teacher at your school right now. Maybe they teach English or history or something, but they're probably a little bit of a sports geek, and adding or let's say replacing one of their current classes with a class in media, social media, etc., is probably not that big a stretch. As an AD, talk to your principal, talk to your administration, and share how important this type of position is, not just for athletics, but for the entire school. The expression, athletics is the front porch of the school. That's 100% true. People come to your school because of the athletic program more than any other program. Let's promote it. And I'm going to say one more thing, and I'm going to shut up. Let Saphire talk. Um, the social media, it can have such a huge impact. People in your community, they're going to talk about your school. They're going to talk about the teachers. They're going to talk about the AD. They're going to talk about the principal. Why not give them something positive to talk about? Let your social media person share all the great things that your kids and your coaches are doing right now. Take control of the narrative. Give those folks something to talk about. Saphire, am I on point here or am I just out in the weeds?
No, for sure. And like journalism was only created at my school this year because I was on staff. And I don't know what it's like in Florida or in any other place, but in Texas, that actually counts as an English credit. So kids can choose to take broadcast journalism instead of a higher English if they want to. And I have some kids who are actually really interested in it. And thankfully, I get to go with them because of our cheer team to Disney, where they get to experience how ESPN kind of covers, an athletic event. So they get really cool experiences because of it too.
No, absolutely. It is the case in Florida, and I'm sure any other state. There are steps to getting a course approved through your state Department of Education, but absolutely that's the route to go. Get it for credit. And whether a kid goes on to follow that in college or beyond, if they do, that's great. But if they don't, you're giving them a great experience. You're helping the school. You're helping your student athletes. And oh, by the way, you're taking something off of your plate as an AD, and maybe even more importantly, off of that coach's plate. Um, excuse me. You talked about the importance of continuing to create opportunities for all of our students, but especially for women in this niche. Um, what what's some advice I guess you can share from your own journey? As a college sports journalist to a professional sports journalist to now you're teaching that next generation. Any advice that you can pass on to our listeners as they are developing their programs?
Well, first off, I would love to just encourage everyone to continue to encourage, the females that are out there in, this area in this industry are wanting to get into it because really there's not a lot of us. I just got back from the coaching convention in North Carolina. There's more, I was told than there's ever been, but there really wasn't a ton of females. And so, just encouraging the younger generations to stick with it, even though there's not a lot of us in the industry right now, because there are so many roles that females can play in an athletic department, whether that be in football or anywhere else. And obviously, like you have the girls side of sports as well, and that's just going to continue to grow with time, hopefully. And so, um, hoping that my younger students are able to kind of stick with it, even though this is kind of a male dominated industry right now, which isn't a bad thing. I remember I texted my dad after the weekend. I said, man, I went to this convention and it was probably the most safe I've ever felt in my whole entire life, just being a female, like alone with a ton of men. Because I mean, honestly, most coaches are really good men. The most coaches are great examples for, students and great examples for, how to be a dad and how to, live your life and how to go through life's challenges. And so I think that's really good for even females to be around because then that gives them an example of, who they should kind of be hanging around and, who maybe even one day the type of men that they should marry. So I definitely applaud, coaches in that aspect on being an example and on for student athletes for sure.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that. I know Jen Brooks, she's the founder of the Global Community of Women in High School Sports. She uses the term We want to thank our male allies, that are helping, promote
Mhm.
women in sports. Great stuff. Sapphire, this has been just so cool spending some time with you, getting to know you a little bit. We are definitely going to have to bring you back on the podcast, maybe as one of our regulars, and let's get some of your students on to share their stories. But we're not done yet. We always wrap up with a segment we call the Athletic Director's Toolbox. Now, you're not an athletic director, but you certainly know your way around the world of athletics. We're going to take our final break here from Athletic Surveys, and when we return, I'm going to challenge you to send out a brand new athletic director on their very first job, but I'm only going to let you put three things in their toolbox. So let's take that break, and we're going to find out what Saphire Cervantes puts into her new athletic director toolbox. We want to say thanks to Athletic Surveys for sponsoring the AD Toolbox segment. Athletic directors already get feedback, but a lot of times it's from a very small group that just wants to complain. Athletic Surveys will connect you to that group so you can hear their issues and hopefully address them. But they're also going to connect you to the 98% of your stakeholders that support your program. And having that kind of data is incredibly valuable, especially when you're visiting with that frustrated parent or maybe your principal or even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that lets you take the pulse of everybody in your program. That's athleticsurveys.com. Check them out today. Well, it's that time of the podcast. We've been visiting today with Saphire Cervantes, a professional sports journalist and award-winning journalist who's now the director of recruitment and media relations for Woodville High School in Texas. Has a tremendous background in athletics, but right now I'm going to challenge her to send out a brand new athletic director on their very first job, but I'm only going to let her put three things in the toolbox. So, Saphire, what three items are going to go into your new athletic director toolbox?
Well, fun fact, I actually do help with operations at Woodville High School. I just help a little bit with what my AD does. I do a little bit of everything, you know. I love Coach Rob, so any way I can help him, I try to help him. And just from what I've seen him do, what I feel is important for an athlete. All right, like I was saying, I try to help out our AD anytime I can with because I'm a big fan of Coach Rob, and so any way I can help, I try to help him out. And so I've learned a lot from him on how to kind of manage a program and athletics in general. And I would definitely say that a new AD first and foremost needs a great community with All right. So my first tool definitely would be, new ADs need a great community behind them. And that's, if family, friends, just because this job definitely isn't an easy job. You're going to have some positives all the time and you're going to have some negatives all the time, but the negatives can be there can be pretty low negatives. And so having someone that is there to uplift you and just tell you that, you can do this is something that you need. And my second one would be a part of the community, but it'd be good coaches, around you, coaches that you can trust, coaches that you can, give jobs to so that it lightens your load, that, can run, the girls side of things. So you can only have to, focus on the guys or, on others, worry about, and rules of difference. I think it's important to have. Number three. Let me see. So start with okay. All right. My second coach help
All right,
trust and
we're having some audio issues. Please stay with us. We're gonna get this all straightened out.
All right, so number two, I would definitely recommend that you have some good coaches by your side because you don't want to have to worry about every single sport that there is at your school. So you want to have coaches that you trust because that's just going to help you out. And number three, I would definitely just have good people skills, be able to communicate, be able to, advocate for your student athletes because that's going to get them far and that's going to get you far as an athletic director, honestly.
Well, I love all three of them, particularly your very first one. Having that your own community. Connect with the community, but have your own community. Family and friends, because it can be a lonely job at times. So great, great tools. Sapphire, one more time, if one of our listeners wanted to reach out and connect with you, find out more about your program, what's the best way they can do that?
Please reach out to me. You can find me on X or Twitter, Coach Fire 98, or you can even email me, sapphireC2020 at gmail.com is my personal email, or sapphire.cervantes at woodvilleeagles.org is my work email. I'm more than willing to talk about my job. I love my job. I love my own AD. He's really a great guy, and I'm so grateful for this opportunity that I get. And, hopefully more people get the opportunity as well.
Well, let's go ahead and get him on the podcast down the road. But definitely, you and I are going to talk. We're going to bring you back. Great guest. All the best for your teams and your athletes moving forward. And thanks again for coming on the podcast.
No, thank you so much for letting me.
For listeners, just a reminder, we upload the Zoom recordings of all of our interviews to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We do this just about every day. We try to share stories and best practices. So come back and join us again on the next episode of the Educational AD Podcast.